Wedding Bells Ahead by Arleta Richardson. Chapter 7. Quiet Before the Tempest. Len and I rode home in silence. We had agreed with Jerome Grayson's suggestion that we say nothing to Augusta until a search had been made for the original deed. Jerome promised to make the trip to the county seat on Monday. "You wouldn't believe the dirt I've shoveled out of this house," Augusta spluttered when I came in. "They're still working on that tree, and the wind was just right to blow all the sawdust under the doors. Even had to take the dishes out of the lower cupboards."
"I should have been here to help you,"
I said.
"Why didn't you mention it to me before I left this morning?"
"You helped all right," Augusta replied. "The best thing anyone can do for me when I'm cleaning is to stay out of the way. Did you have your supper?"
"Yes. I ate at Len's."
"Thought you would, so I didn't wait. I suppose he's glad you're going to be here for church tomorrow for a change."
"I think he is,"
I replied.
"I'm looking forward to it. What time are you planning to leave in the morning?"
"Aren't you going with Len?" Augusta asked. I shook my head.
"He goes early to open up and get things ready, and I can't sit with him anyway," I laughed. "I hadn't thought about never being able to sit with my husband in church. I'll feel like a displaced person."
"There are many women who don't sit with their husbands in church," Augusta commented. "At least you'll know where yours is." The first person I saw when I arrived Sunday morning was Elizabeth Lawton. The thought went through my mind that she obviously knew what time Len arrived and made it a point to be there. Immediately, I was annoyed with myself for being suspicious. I determined to be friendly to Elizabeth whether I felt like it or not. But as usual, she didn't make that an easy task.
"Good morning, Augusta,"
she said. She surveyed me coolly.
"Mabel, how nice of you to grace us with your presence this morning. Did your friend, what's her name, decide that you didn't need to make a trip home this weekend?"
Before I could think of a suitable retort, Elizabeth turned away. "I feel sorry for her." Amelia Matthews' soft voice spoke beside me. "She's never had a home that she wanted to go back to. I suspect that she's never had a friend like your Sarah Jane either." I turned toward her gratefully.
"Sorrow isn't exactly what I feel toward Elizabeth. In spite of my best resolves, I always end up wanting to smack her. That's hardly a Christian attitude,"
I admitted ruefully. "Understandable, though," Amelia laughed. "I'm glad to see you. How is your mother getting on?"
"Just fine, I assume. Pa said he would get word to me if I'm needed. I think both of them feel that things will go a lot smoother if I'm not there."
It was time for church to begin, and I took my place beside Augusta. In spite of what had happened, I enjoyed the worship service. As we prayed, I thanked the Lord for his blessings, a good home, a wonderful family, and Len. The future looked bright. When church was dismissed, I was surrounded by some of my children and their parents.
"I hadn't realized how long it's been since I've seen you,"
I said as I hugged Flora Abbott.
"Your girls are doing so well in school. Most of the time I can't even tell them apart."
"Brace yourself," she said. "There are 2 more on the way." She laughed at the look on my face. "That's right, Dr. Mason says it's twins again."
"That's wonderful,"
I exclaimed.
"But why didn't Augusta tell me?"
"She doesn't know," Flora whispered. "Now you'll have something to tell her. There's not much that she doesn't know first."
"There's something else she doesn't know, and I wish I didn't either,"
I thought. I looked toward the door where Len had been shaking hands with people and saw that he and Jerome Grayson were talking. I wondered what they were planning, but I wouldn't have thought of joining them. Elizabeth, however, had no such compunctions. Under the pretense of taking care of the hymnals, she lingered close enough to overhear their conversation. Any thoughts were interrupted by Len's mother, who was inviting Augusta for dinner. "There's no point in fixing a big meal just for yourself," she said. "Done it most of my life," Augusta replied. "But I'll admit that it aids digestion to have someone to talk to while I eat." She looked at me thoughtfully and added, "Even if it is a young one who doesn't think her elders know what they are talking about." She looked significantly toward Elizabeth, but I pretended not to notice. I walked out to the buggy with them, and we waited for Mr. Williams and Len to close the church and join us. Watching Elizabeth walk toward home with the other Lawton children, I tried to tell myself that she must have some good traits. She attended church faithfully, even though her parents never came. But why? To hear the sermon or to see the preacher? Mrs. Williams chattered about neighborhood happenings as we put dinner on the table. "There's a new baby at the Sawyers," she reported. "Born yesterday. They named her Hope."
"I wondered why I didn't see Hannah and Teddy this morning,"
I said. "They stayed with their aunt. She'll bring them back in time for school tomorrow."
"We won't be without a beginner class forever,"
I said.
"The Abbotts are expecting another set of twins. I wonder if I'll have as much trouble telling them apart as I've had with Rosie and Josie."
Augusta looked so surprised that I couldn't resist a chance to tease her.
"How could you have missed a big news item like that, Augusta? It isn't often that I get to tell you what's happening in North Branch."
"That's true," she admitted good-naturedly. "I guess you're entitled to share a surprise now and then." Again, I thought of the surprise I wasn't eager to share. We sat down to eat, and the conversation turned toward other matters. When dinner was over, I began to clear the table. "Are you too tired for a walk, Mabel?" Len asked.
"Why, no, I'd love to get out for a while."
I smiled at him.
"I need to have the cobwebs swept away."
"I'll help Emily," Augusta said. "You go along now." "Better bring your coat," Len advised me. "It's getting nippy. I think we're skipping October this year and heading straight into winter." We turned north toward the river and walked in silence for several minutes. The wind was cool, but the late fall sun was still warm enough to be comforting. Len tucked my hand in his pocket and looked down at me fondly. "I'm not much good at expressing myself except in a sermon," he said. "You do know how much I care about you, don't you?"
"Of course I do, Len," I replied. "Words aren't always necessary to let people know what you feel. I talk too much sometimes. I need you for balance."
"Well, I don't talk enough sometimes," Len offered. "I hold things inside that should be said." He paused, then added, "Mabel, do you plan to continue teaching after we're married?"
"Why, I hadn't thought of not teaching. I enjoy it so much, and besides, we could—"
"Use the money?" Len finished for me. "I know I can't provide for you as I would like to on a preacher's salary, but I was hoping that with the farm we'd get along all right."
"We will, Len,"
I said.
"I wasn't even thinking about what you might prefer. I just love my school teaching so much that I don't consider it work."
"If I asked you not to teach because of my pride, that would be pretty selfish," Len admitted. "It would be the same as having you ask me to choose another profession so that we could live better."
"I don't want to live better," I stated emphatically. "I accepted you for what you are. More than anything, I want you to do the Lord's will and be happy."
"Thank you, Mabel. I appreciate that. What would you think of continuing to teach at your school until we have children of our own? Would that be satisfactory?"
"Oh, Len,"
I exclaimed.
"that would be perfect. Are you sure that's the way you want it?"
"I can live with that," he grinned. "I hope all of our problems are this easy to solve." We reached a clearing on the edge of Augusta's property and sat down on a rail fence overlooking the river. "Jerome is going to the county seat in the morning," Len said. "He has other business besides the Harris property, and he asked if I'd like to go along. I could go through the records while he takes care of other things."
"Are you going?"
Len nodded. "It'll be a good opportunity to spend some time with him. Lately, he's been questioning me about what we believe. And I'm anxious to know about the deed, too. One way or another, a decision has to be made."
"I hope we're doing the right thing," I said. "Keeping those papers from Augusta, I mean. When it comes right down to it, it's really none of our business, is it?"
"I suppose not," Len said slowly. "But I'm sure Augusta's going to be grateful for any help she can get in taking care of this problem. The more we know, the better we'll be able to help her."
"If there's no will, the whole thing will be up to her. If there is one, the Gages will be involved. I don't know which way I hope it will go."
"It won't be easy either way," Len agreed. We watched a pair of squirrels rustling through the leaves and carrying nuts up the trees. I shivered as I thought of the long, cold winter ahead. "Are you chilly?" Len asked. "It's time to start back anyway. I need to get ready for the evening service. Are you planning to come?"
"Where else would I go?" I said. "Hurry up. I'll race you to the road."
"No fair," Len complained when we stopped to catch a breath. "You had a head start."
"That's what Sarah Jane always says. No one will admit that I can run faster than most people."
"You just don't have as much to carry," Len said. "Try carrying 70 extra pounds and see who wins." Elizabeth was at the evening service.
"I didn't expect to see her here,"
I said to Augusta.
"Doesn't she go back to her boarding place in town on Sunday afternoon?"
"Once in a while she waits till Monday morning," Augusta answered, "especially during the summer when you aren't here." Church didn't last long on Sunday night, but it was dark when we finally locked the door. Len took us home. "I don't know what time we'll get back tomorrow evening," he said. "You won't be needing Regal for anything, will you?" I shook my head. "Then I'll take our rig. I'll see you Tuesday. If you do need to get home, my pa will see that you have a way."
"It's early yet," I said. "Ma isn't due for at least 3 weeks."
"Where's he off to?" Augusta wanted to know when we were inside.
"With Mr. Grayson," I replied. "They have some business to look into."
For some reason, Augusta didn't persist in her questioning, and I retreated thankfully to my room to get ready for bed. End of chapter 7.